Who were the Philistines? The true story behind Israel's biblical adversaries. Imagine a people so mysterious that their story was written in ancient texts, their culture rediscovered in the sands of time, and their name still echoes as a symbol of conflict, resilience, and adaptation. The Philistines, often remembered as Israel's greatest rivals in the Bible, were much more than adversaries. They were a sophisticated civilization with roots in the Aegean world, thriving in the heart of the Levant. But who were the Philistines really? How did they live? What did they believe? And why did they vanish? In this video, we will travel back in time to uncover the true identity of this fascinating people. We will explore how their gods shaped their worldview, how their cities in the Pentapolis became centers of power, and how they left behind a legacy that still challenges our understanding of history. This is not just a story of war and conquest, but also one of culture, faith, resilience, and humanity's incredible ability to adapt. If you love history, archaeology, or want to understand how the Philistines influenced the ancient world and even our modern times, this video is for you. Before we dive into this incredible journey, take a moment to subscribe to the channel, share this video with someone you think would love this topic, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our future content. Now let's begin. The arrival of the Philistines in the Levant. The Philistines are often remembered as the principal antagonists of Israel in biblical narratives, especially during the time of the Judges and the United Monarchy. However, their history is far richer and more intricate than their role as enemies of Israel. The arrival of the Philistines in the Levant is a pivotal chapter in the history of the ancient Near East, marked by mystery, migration, and the establishment of a powerful culture. Historically, the Philistines are linked to the enigmatic group known as the Sea Peoples, who destabilized Mediterranean civilizations at the end of the Late Bronze Age. These groups, including the Philistines, are believed to have migrated from the Aegean region, encompassing modern-day Crete, Cyprus, and surrounding areas, to the eastern Mediterranean. This migration, which occurred around the 12th century before Christ, coincided with the collapse of major powers such as the Mycenaeans, the Hittites, and the Egyptians. The reasons behind this mass movement are complex, involving factors such as natural disasters, political instability, and the search for fertile lands. The Philistines likely embarked on this journey from the Aegean, as evidenced by archaeological discoveries that connect them to the Mycenaean world. Pottery styles excavated in Philistine settlements, such as the distinctive Philistine bichrome ware, reflect clear connections to Aegean traditions. Additionally, ancient Egyptian texts, including inscriptions from the reign of Pharaoh Ramses III, describe the attacks of the Sea Peoples on Egypt and their eventual settlement in the coastal regions of Canaan. Genetic studies conducted on remains from Philistine cities further validate their origin in southern Europe. Despite their association with invasions, the arrival of the Philistines in the Levant was not a single catastrophic event. Rather, it was a gradual process of migration and integration. They settled in the fertile coastal plains, creating a network of 5 major city-states known as the Pentapolis: Gaza, Ashkelon, Ashdod, Ekron, and Gath. These cities became centers of Philistine power, economy, and culture. Unlike nomadic tribes, the Philistines demonstrated advanced urban planning and governance, traits that distinguished them from their neighbors. The establishment of the Pentapolis highlights the Philistines' sophisticated approach to settlement and administration. Each city-state maintained a degree of autonomy, governed by its own ruler, yet collaborated with the others in matters of defense and shared interests. This confederation allowed them to exert significant influence over the region, particularly in trade and military strength. The early years of the Philistines in the Levant were marked by adaptation and interaction. While they retained their Aegean roots, they gradually assimilated aspects of local Canaanite culture. This blend of traditions is evident in their material culture, religious practices, and even language. Archaeological evidence suggests that they adopted Semitic dialects, facilitating communication and integration with neighboring peoples. One of the most fascinating aspects of the Philistines' arrival is their role in shaping the political and cultural landscape of the Levant. Their settlements introduced new dynamics to the region, challenging the dominance of local powers such as the Canaanites and the Egyptians. The Philistines quickly established themselves as a formidable force, capable of both cooperation and conflict with their neighbors. Their reputation as fierce warriors is well documented, but the Philistines were also skilled artisans, merchants, and farmers. Their control of trade routes and access to the Mediterranean Sea enabled them to engage in extensive commerce, connecting the Levant to distant regions. This economic prowess, combined with their military capabilities, solidified their status as a significant power in the ancient world. The origins and early settlement of the Philistines are a testament to their resilience and adaptability. From their Aegean roots to their integration into the Levantine landscape, the Philistines represent a fascinating example of cultural fusion and survival. Their arrival was not merely a migration, it was the beginning of a civilization that would leave an indelible mark on the history of the ancient Near East. A notable example of their presence in biblical narratives is found in Genesis chapter 10, verse 14, where the Philistines are mentioned as descendants of Casluhim, the son of Mizraim. Another significant reference appears in Exodus chapter 13, verse 17, which mentions the land of the Philistines as part of Canaan, highlighting the historical relevance of this people in the geopolitics of the region. These mentions reinforce how the Philistines were already established and playing a key role in biblical history from ancient times. Let me know if this meets your expectations or if adjustments are needed before proceeding to the next chapter. The Philistine Pentapolis and Urban System. The Philistines quickly established themselves as a dominant power in the Levant by organizing into a network of 5 principal city-states known as the Pentapolis: Gaza, Ashkelon, Ashdod, Ekron, and Gath. These cities were not merely settlements, but highly organized urban centers that became the political, economic, and cultural backbone of Philistine society. This sophisticated urban system reflected the Philistines' ability to adapt to their new environment while retaining key elements of their Aegean heritage. Each city in the Pentapolis held a unique role within this confederation. Gaza, strategically located near major trade routes, was a gateway connecting Egypt to the rest of the Levant. Its position made it a critical hub for the exchange of goods, including spices, textiles, and metals. Gaza's fortified structures, unearthed by archaeologists, highlight its importance as both a defensive stronghold and a center of commerce. Ashkelon, positioned along the Mediterranean coast, was a major port city. Its economy thrived on maritime trade, fishing, and agriculture. Excavations have revealed evidence of bustling marketplaces and advanced infrastructure, such as well-engineered water systems. These findings underscore Ashkelon's role as a cultural and economic melting pot, where goods and ideas flowed freely between regions. Ashdod, another coastal city, served as a key religious and military center. Archaeological remains indicate the presence of significant temples and sanctuaries, which suggest that Ashdod was a focal point for Philistine religious practices. Additionally, its location and fortifications made it a strategic outpost for defending the northern borders of the Pentapolis. Ekron distinguished itself as an agricultural powerhouse, particularly in the production of olive oil. Large industrial installations for pressing olives, discovered during excavations, point to Ekron's central role in supplying the region with this essential commodity. Its economic contributions extended beyond agriculture, as Ekron also participated in regional trade networks, exporting surplus goods to neighboring territories. Gath, often associated with the biblical narrative of Goliath, was a city with strong military and political significance. Located further inland, Gath controlled vital trade routes and served as a buffer between the coastal cities and the Israelite highlands. Its impressive fortifications and strategic positioning highlight its importance in the Philistine defense system. The governance of the Pentapolis was decentralized yet cooperative. Each city-state operated independently under the leadership of its own ruler, known as a serene, a term referenced in Judges chapter 16, verse 5. These rulers collaborated on matters of mutual interest, such as military campaigns and trade agreements, forming a loose confederation that balanced autonomy with unity. This structure allowed the Philistines to pool resources and coordinate responses to external threats effectively. The Philistine cities were not only centers of power, but also hubs of cultural and economic innovation. The architecture of their urban spaces reveals influences from both Aegean and Canaanite traditions. Fortified walls, elaborate gates, and public buildings demonstrate the Philistines' advanced construction techniques. The discovery of intricately decorated pottery and artifacts further reflects their artistic and cultural sophistication. The Pentapolis also served as a base for the Philistines' interactions with neighboring peoples. Their coastal cities provided access to maritime trade routes, connecting them to Egypt, Cyprus, and the broader Mediterranean. These trade connections brought wealth and cultural exchange, enabling the Philistines to integrate new ideas and technologies into their society. However, the prominence of the Pentapolis also made the Philistines a target for rival powers. Biblical accounts, such as those in 1 Samuel chapter 5, describe the Philistines' conflicts with Israel, often centered around these cities. The capture of the Ark of the Covenant and its subsequent placement in the Temple of Dagon in Ashdod illustrates both the religious significance and the strategic value of these urban centers. Despite these challenges, the Pentapolis remained the heart of Philistine power for centuries. Its cities embodied the resilience and adaptability of the Philistine people, blending their Aegean roots with the influences of the Levant. This unique urban system not only sustained their civilization, but also cemented their legacy as a formidable presence in the ancient Near East. Cultural artifacts, archaeology, and material legacy. The material culture left behind by the Philistines provides a unique window into their lives, beliefs, and interactions with neighboring civilizations. Through archaeological discoveries, historians and scholars have pieced together a vivid picture of Philistine society, showcasing their artistic, technological, and cultural achievements. These findings not only highlight their distinct identity, but also demonstrate how they adapted to and influenced the Levantine world. One of the most iconic elements of Philistine material culture is their pottery. The so-called Philistine bichrome ware, with its distinctive red and black geometric patterns, spirals, and stylized birds, reflects the strong Aegean influence brought by the Philistines during their migration. This type of pottery, initially crafted using techniques from the Mycenaean world, later evolved as the Philistines integrated elements from Canaanite styles. This fusion of traditions demonstrates their ability to adapt while retaining a sense of cultural uniqueness. Another significant archaeological find is Philistine architecture. Excavations in major cities like Ashkelon, Ashdod, and Ekron have revealed well-planned urban layouts, including fortified walls, public buildings, and residential areas. The use of mud bricks and stone, along with evidence of defensive structures such as ramparts and gates, indicates a sophisticated understanding of construction and urban planning. Ashkelon, for example, boasted a massive gate system and advanced water management infrastructure, underscoring the technological ingenuity of the Philistines. Religious artifacts have also shed light on Philistine spiritual practices. Temples dedicated to their gods, such as Dagon, have been discovered, complete with altars and ritual items. Figurines and cultic objects found in these temples reflect the syncretic nature of Philistine religion, which blended Aegean traditions with Canaanite influences. The Bible also provides insight into their religious life, such as in Judges chapter 16, where the Philistines worship Dagon in a temple that becomes the setting for Samson's final act of defiance. Weapons and tools unearthed in Philistine sites illustrate their advanced craftsmanship and strategic acumen. The Philistines were known for their mastery of ironworking, which gave them a technological edge over their contemporaries. Their monopoly on iron production is mentioned in 1 Samuel chapter 13, verse 19, where it is stated that the Israelites depended on Philistine blacksmiths for sharpening tools and weapons. This control over ironworking technology not only bolstered their military power, but also reinforced their economic dominance. Trade and commerce were also vital aspects of Philistine culture, as evidenced by artifacts such as weights, seals, and imported luxury goods. These items indicate that the Philistines were active participants in regional and international trade networks. Their coastal cities served as key hubs for the exchange of goods such as wine, olive oil, and textiles, connecting them to Egypt, Cyprus, and other Mediterranean powers. The discovery of Egyptian scarabs and Cypriot pottery in Philistine settlements underscores their far-reaching trade connections. Artistic expression among the Philistines was equally notable. Their depictions of animals, human figures, and mythological motifs reflect a blend of Aegean and Levantine styles. These artistic works, often found on pottery and jewelry, reveal a society that valued both functionality and aesthetic beauty. The iconography of their art also provides clues about their beliefs and daily life, illustrating scenes of religious rituals, feasting, and warfare. Despite their achievements, the Philistines were not isolated from the cultural influences of their neighbors. The artifacts found in their cities show a gradual assimilation of Canaanite and Egyptian elements over time. This cultural exchange was mutual, as the Philistines' distinctive style and technological advancements also influenced neighboring peoples. Their pottery styles, for instance, became widely imitated across the Levant, attesting to their cultural impact. One particularly fascinating aspect of Philistine material culture is their burial practices. Excavations have uncovered tombs containing a variety of grave goods, including jewelry, weapons, and pottery. These items suggest a belief in an afterlife and provide insights into their social structure, as the wealth of the grave goods often correlated with the status of the deceased. The discovery of Philistine cemeteries, such as the one in Ashkelon, has further illuminated their funerary customs and their connections to Aegean traditions. The material legacy of the Philistines is a testament to their ingenuity and adaptability. Their artifacts offer a glimpse into a vibrant civilization that successfully blended its Aegean heritage with the rich cultures of the Levant. Through pottery, architecture, religious objects, and more, the Philistines left behind a cultural imprint that continues to intrigue and inspire modern scholars. Cultural artifacts, archaeology, and material legacy. The material culture left behind by the Philistines provides a unique window into their lives, beliefs, and interactions with neighboring civilizations. Through archaeological discoveries, historians and scholars have pieced together a vivid picture of Philistine society, showcasing their artistic, technological, and cultural achievements. These findings not only highlight their distinct identity, but also demonstrate how they adapted to and influenced the Levantine world. One of the most iconic elements of Philistine material culture is their pottery. The so-called Philistine bichrome ware, with its distinctive red and black geometric patterns, spirals, and stylized birds, reflects the strong Aegean influence brought by the Philistines during their migration. This type of pottery, initially crafted using techniques from the Mycenaean world, later evolved as the Philistines integrated elements from Canaanite styles. This fusion of traditions demonstrates their ability to adapt while retaining a sense of cultural uniqueness. Another significant archaeological find is Philistine architecture. Excavations in major cities like Ashkelon, Ashdod, and Ekron have revealed well-planned urban layouts, including fortified walls, public buildings, and residential areas. The use of mud bricks and stone, along with evidence of defensive structures such as ramparts and gates, indicates a sophisticated understanding of construction and urban planning. Ashkelon, for example, boasted a massive gate system and advanced water management infrastructure, underscoring the technological ingenuity of the Philistines. Religious artifacts have also shed light on Philistine spiritual practices. Temples dedicated to their gods, such as Dagon, have been discovered complete with altars and ritual items. Figurines and cultic objects found in these temples reflect the syncretic nature of Philistine religion, which blended Aegean traditions with Canaanite influences. The Bible also provides insight into their religious life, such as in Judges chapter 16, where the Philistines worship Dagon in a temple that becomes the setting for Samson's final act of defiance. Weapons and tools unearthed in Philistine sites illustrate their advanced craftsmanship and strategic acumen. The Philistines were known for their mastery of ironworking, which gave them a technological edge over their contemporaries. Their monopoly on iron production is mentioned in 1 Samuel chapter 13, verse 19, where it is stated that the Israelites depended on Philistine blacksmiths for sharpening tools and weapons. This control over ironworking technology not only bolstered their military power, but also reinforced their economic dominance. Trade and commerce were also vital aspects of Philistine culture, as evidenced by artifacts such as weights, seals, and imported luxury goods. These items indicate that the Philistines were active participants in regional and international trade networks. Their coastal cities served as key hubs for the exchange of goods such as wine, olive oil, and textiles, connecting them to Egypt, Cyprus, and other Mediterranean powers. The discovery of Egyptian scarabs and Cypriot pottery in Philistine settlements underscores their far-reaching trade connections. Artistic expression among the Philistines was equally notable. Their depictions of animals, human figures, and mythological motifs reflect a blend of Aegean and Levantine styles. These artistic works, often found on pottery and jewelry, reveal a society that valued both functionality and aesthetic beauty. The iconography of their art also provides clues about their beliefs and daily life, illustrating scenes of religious rituals, feasting, and warfare. Despite their achievements, the Philistines were not isolated from the cultural influences of their neighbors. The artifacts found in their cities show a gradual assimilation of Canaanite and Egyptian elements over time. This cultural exchange was mutual, as the Philistines' distinctive style and technological advancements also influenced neighboring peoples. Their pottery styles, for instance, became widely imitated across the Levant, attesting to their cultural impact. One particularly fascinating aspect of Philistine material culture is their burial practices. Excavations have uncovered tombs containing a variety of grave goods, including jewelry, weapons, and pottery. These items suggest a belief in an afterlife and provide insights into their social structure, as the wealth of the grave goods often correlated with the status of the deceased. The discovery of Philistine cemeteries, such as the one in Ashkelon, has further illuminated their funerary customs and their connections to Aegean traditions. The material legacy of the Philistines is a testament to their ingenuity and adaptability. Their artifacts offer a glimpse into a vibrant civilization that successfully blended its Aegean heritage with the rich cultures of the Levant. Through pottery, architecture, religious objects, and more, the Philistines left behind a cultural imprint that continues to intrigue and inspire modern scholars. The religion of the Philistines, gods and rituals. Religion played a central role in Philistine society, influencing their daily lives, governance, and interactions with other cultures. Archaeological evidence and biblical accounts reveal a rich tapestry of religious practices and beliefs that combined elements of their Aegean origins with influences from the Canaanite world. By examining their temples, artifacts, and the gods they worshipped, we can gain a deeper understanding of their spiritual worldview. One of the most prominent deities in the Philistine pantheon was Dagon, a god often associated with agriculture and fertility. Temples dedicated to Dagon have been uncovered in cities such as Ashdod and Gaza, highlighting his importance in Philistine worship. The Bible frequently references Dagon, most notably in Judges chapter 16, where the Philistines gather in his temple to celebrate the capture of Samson. This temple becomes the site of Samson's final act, symbolizing a climactic clash between the Philistines and the Israelites. Another key figure in Philistine religion was Astarte, a goddess associated with love, war, and fertility. Often linked to the Canaanite goddess Ashtoreth, Astarte's worship reflects the syncretism of Philistine religious practices. Temples and artifacts dedicated to her have been discovered in cities such as Ashkelon, suggesting her widespread veneration among the Philistine population. Beelzebub, or Baalzebub, was another deity significant to the Philistines, particularly in the city of Ekron. As referenced in 2 Kings chapter 1 verse 2, the Philistines sought guidance from this god, whose name translates to Lord of the Flies or Lord of the Heavenly Dwelling. This connection illustrates how the Philistines incorporated and adapted local deities into their religious framework, blending their own beliefs with those of their Canaanite neighbors. Philistine temples were not merely places of worship, but also centers of communal and political life. Excavations have revealed these structures to be architecturally impressive, with large courtyards, altars, and sacred chambers. The layout of these temples often reflected Aegean influences, such as the use of elongated halls and central sanctuaries. These spaces were designed to accommodate rituals that involved offerings, feasts, and possibly music and dance. Ritual practices among the Philistines were deeply tied to their understanding of divine favor and cosmic balance. Sacrifices of animals and occasionally other offerings were a common feature of their worship. These rituals served to honor their gods, seek blessings for fertility and prosperity, and appease divine wrath during times of crisis. The Bible provides an example of such practices in 1 Samuel chapter 6, when the Philistines, plagued by misfortune after capturing the Ark of the Covenant, offer golden representations of tumors and rats as a guilt offering to the God of Israel. Divination was another significant aspect of Philistine religious life. They were known for their skills in interpreting omens, consulting oracles, and using objects such as rods and dice to discern the will of their gods. This reliance on divination is evident in their military strategies and decision-making processes. For instance, the Philistines often sought divine guidance before engaging in battles, as indicated in various biblical accounts. The use of religious icons and symbols was prevalent in Philistine worship. Portable idols and figurines representing their gods were commonly used during rituals and even carried into battle as symbols of divine protection. 1 Samuel chapter 5 describes the Ark of the Covenant being placed in the temple of Dagon, highlighting the Philistines' belief in the power of sacred objects. This episode also underscores the tension between the Philistine gods and the God of Israel, a recurring theme in the biblical narrative. Philistine religion also reflected their connection to the natural world. Many of their deities and rituals were associated with agricultural cycles, fertility, and the sea, emphasizing their dependence on the environment for survival and prosperity. Their temples often included symbols and motifs that celebrated these natural elements, blending spirituality with their daily lives. The syncretism of Philistine religion demonstrates their adaptability and openness to external influences. While they retained elements of their Aegean heritage, they readily adopted and integrated Canaanite deities and practices. This blending of traditions not only enriched their religious life, but also facilitated their interactions with neighboring cultures, allowing them to navigate the complex social and political landscape of the Levant. The religion of the Philistines offers a fascinating glimpse into their identity as a people. Through their gods, rituals, and temples, we see a civilization that sought to connect the divine with the earthly, blending tradition and innovation in their spiritual practices. This intricate tapestry of beliefs and customs underscores their cultural complexity and their enduring impact on the history of the ancient Near East. Philistine economy and trade networks. The Philistine economy was a cornerstone of their civilization, underpinning their cultural development and political strength in the ancient Levant. Centered around their strategically positioned cities in the Pentapolis, the Philistines leveraged their location along coastal and inland trade routes to establish a thriving economic system. By examining their agricultural practices, industries, and trade networks, we gain a clearer picture of how the Philistines built and sustained their society. One of the primary economic activities of the Philistines was agriculture. The fertile plains of the Levant provided ideal conditions for growing crops such as wheat, barley, and olives. The city of Ekron, in particular, became a major center for olive oil production. Archaeological excavations have uncovered industrial-scale facilities for pressing olives, indicating that the Philistines were not only self-sufficient in this vital commodity, but also active exporters. Olive oil was a highly valued product in the ancient world, used for cooking, lighting, and religious rituals. In addition to agriculture, the Philistines engaged in animal husbandry, raising cattle, sheep, and goats. These animals provided meat, milk, wool, and leather, which were essential for both domestic use and trade. Fishing also played a significant role in their economy, especially in coastal cities like Ashkelon and Gaza. The abundance of marine resources in the Mediterranean allowed the Philistines to diversify their diet and trade products such as salted fish and seafood. Craftsmanship and industry were other pillars of the Philistine economy. They were particularly skilled in metallurgy, pottery, and textile production. Their expertise in ironworking is well documented, giving them a technological advantage over many of their neighbors. The Bible references this monopoly in 1 Samuel chapter 13, verse 19, noting that the Israelites depended on Philistine blacksmiths for tools and weapons. This control over iron production strengthened their economy and solidified their position as a regional power. Philistine pottery, characterized by its distinctive bichrome designs and intricate decorations, was not only a functional household item, but also a valuable trade good. The artistry and craftsmanship of their ceramics reflect both Aegean influences and local adaptations. These items were widely distributed across the Levant, showcasing their reach and influence in regional markets. Similarly, Philistine textiles, likely woven from wool and flax, were another important trade item, valued for their quality and durability. Trade was the lifeblood of the Philistine economy. Their cities, particularly Gaza and Ashkelon, served as major hubs for commerce, connecting the Levant to Egypt, Mesopotamia, and the wider Mediterranean world. The strategic location of these cities along key trade routes allowed the Philistines to facilitate the exchange of goods such as spices, precious metals, wine, and oil. Artifacts such as weights, scales, and imported luxury items found in Philistine settlements highlight the sophistication of their commercial practices. The Philistines also played a crucial role in maritime trade. Their coastal cities were equipped with ports that enabled them to engage in long-distance trade with other Mediterranean cultures. Egyptian scarabs, Cypriot pottery, and Mycenaean artifacts found in Philistine cities are evidence of their extensive trading networks. These connections not only brought wealth, but also fostered cultural exchange, enriching Philistine society with new ideas and technologies. The wealth generated through trade and industry allowed the Philistines to invest in their cities, enhancing their infrastructure and fortifications. This economic prosperity also supported their military efforts, enabling them to equip their armies with advanced weapons and maintain their dominance in the region. The combination of economic strength and military power made the Philistines a formidable force in the ancient Near East. However, their economic success also made them targets for rival powers. Conflicts with the Israelites, as documented in biblical accounts, often revolved around control of trade routes and resources. For example, Judges chapter 15 describes Samson's burning of Philistine grain fields, highlighting the centrality of agriculture to their economy and the impact of such attacks on their livelihood. Despite these challenges, the Philistines demonstrated resilience and adaptability. Their ability to maintain a stable and diverse economy, even amid conflict, underscores their ingenuity and resourcefulness. By balancing agriculture, industry, and trade, the Philistines created a robust economic system that sustained their civilization for centuries. The Philistine economy was more than a means of survival. It was a foundation for their cultural and political achievements. Through their agricultural innovations, industrial expertise, and mastery of trade, the Philistines established themselves as key players in the ancient world. Their economic legacy, reflected in the artifacts and infrastructure they left behind, continues to provide valuable insights into their society and its enduring impact on the history of the Levant. Relations with the Israelites, conflict and coexistence. The Philistines and Israelites shared a complex history of conflict, rivalry, and occasional coexistence. Biblical narratives often portray the Philistines as fierce adversaries of Israel, engaging in battles that defined the political and cultural landscape of the ancient Levant. However, archaeological evidence and historical context reveal a more nuanced relationship, marked by periods of both hostility and interaction. The rivalry between the Philistines and Israelites is deeply rooted in the struggle for control over key territories and resources. The coastal plains occupied by the Philistines offered fertile lands and access to critical trade routes, making them highly desirable. Conversely, the Israelites, who initially settled in the highlands, sought to expand their territory into the lowlands dominated by the Philistines. This geographical overlap set the stage for frequent confrontations. One of the earliest references to the Philistines in the Bible appears in Genesis chapter 26, where Isaac has interactions with Abimelech, the king of Gerar, a region traditionally associated with the Philistines. Although this account predates the major conflicts of the Iron Age, it highlights early interactions between the two groups. Some scholars suggest that this narrative reflects a memory of pre-Iron Age contact between the Philistines and the ancestors of the Israelites. During the period of the Judges, the Philistines emerged as one of Israel's most formidable enemies. The story of Samson, as recounted in Judges chapters 13 through 16, epitomizes the tensions between the two peoples. Samson's feats of strength, including his destruction of the Philistine temple of Dagon, symbolize Israelite resistance against Philistine domination. These narratives also emphasize the cultural and religious differences that fueled animosity between the groups. The Philistines' technological advantage, particularly their mastery of ironworking, played a significant role in their early dominance over the Israelites. This is highlighted in 1 Samuel chapter 13, where the Israelites lack access to iron weapons and tools, relying on the Philistines for their production. This technological disparity underscored the power imbalance between the two groups during the early stages of their conflict. The Battle of Aphek, described in 1 Samuel chapters 4 and 5, marked a turning point in Philistine-Israelite relations. In this confrontation, the Philistines captured the Ark of the Covenant, a devastating blow to the Israelites. The Ark was taken to the Temple of Dagon in Ashdod, demonstrating the Philistines' belief in their god's superiority. However, the subsequent plagues that afflicted the Philistine cities, as recounted in 1 Samuel chapter 6, forced them to return the Ark to Israel, illustrating the ongoing spiritual and cultural clashes between the two peoples. As Israel transitioned from a tribal confederation to a centralized monarchy, the Philistines remained a significant threat. King Saul's reign is marked by continuous warfare with the Philistines, including the famous encounter between David and Goliath. The story, found in 1 Samuel chapter 17, has become a symbol of faith and courage, with the young David defeating the Philistine giant. This event not only highlights the military conflict, but also serves as a metaphor for the triumph of Israel's God over the Philistine pantheon. David's relationship with the Philistines is particularly intriguing. Before becoming king, David sought refuge among the Philistines, aligning himself with Achish, the king of Gath. This period of uneasy alliance, detailed in 1 Samuel chapters 27 through 29, reflects the complexities of Philistine-Israelite relations. While David temporarily served as a vassal, he ultimately led Israel to decisive victories over the Philistines, consolidating Israelite control over key territories. Under David's leadership, the Philistines were subdued, and their influence waned significantly. However, they remained a presence in the region, occasionally aligning with other powers to challenge Israel. During the divided monarchy, Philistine cities often leveraged Israel's internal conflicts to assert their autonomy. Despite their diminished power, they continued to play a role in the geopolitics of the Levant. The relationship between the Philistines and Israelites was not solely defined by conflict. Trade and cultural exchange occurred between the two groups, as evidenced by the integration of Philistine artifacts into Israelite settlements. Additionally, linguistic and artistic influences suggest periods of interaction and coexistence. The Philistines' coastal cities served as conduits for ideas and goods, facilitating indirect connections between Israel and the broader Mediterranean world. The Philistine-Israelite dynamic exemplifies the broader struggles of the ancient Near East, where competing powers vied for control over land, resources, and cultural dominance. While the biblical accounts emphasize the enmity between the two peoples, the archaeological record paints a more multifaceted picture of their interactions. The Philistines were not merely Israel's enemies, they were neighbors, rivals, and at times, reluctant collaborators. The legacy of this relationship is reflected in the enduring narratives that have shaped our understanding of both groups. From the dramatic stories of Samson and David to the more subtle evidence of cultural exchange, the history of the Philistines and Israelites continues to illuminate the complexities of the ancient Levant. Daily life in Philistine society. The daily life of the Philistines was shaped by their geographic environment, cultural heritage, and interactions with neighboring peoples. Archaeological discoveries and historical records provide valuable insights into their social structures, family life, and community organization. From their diet to their clothing, the Philistines' way of life reflected a blend of Aegean traditions and adaptations to the Levantine landscape. Philistine society was organized around their city-states, with each city in the Pentapolis functioning as a political and economic hub. At the top of their social hierarchy were the rulers, known as Serenim, who governed each city-state and likely coordinated with other rulers on matters of mutual interest, such as defense and trade. Beneath them were the elites, including wealthy merchants, military leaders, and religious officials, who played key roles in maintaining the city's power and prosperity. The majority of Philistines were likely farmers, craftsmen, and laborers who supported the city's economies. Farmers cultivated crops such as wheat, barley, and olives, while craftsmen specialized in pottery, metalworking, and textile production. Laborers contributed to the construction of monumental architecture and the maintenance of city infrastructure, such as walls, gates, and water systems. Philistine families typically lived in houses constructed from mud brick and stone, with layouts that varied depending on the family's status and location. Archaeological excavations have uncovered Philistine homes featuring multiple rooms, courtyards, and storage areas for food and goods. Wealthier households might include larger courtyards for social gatherings and workshops for producing textiles or other crafts. Family life revolved around household activities such as food preparation, weaving, and child rearing. Women were likely responsible for managing the household and performing tasks such as grinding grain, baking bread, and weaving cloth. Men, on the other hand, engaged in farming, trade, and craftsmanship. Children were likely involved in these activities from a young age, learning skills that would prepare them for adult responsibilities. The Philistine diet was diverse and closely tied to the resources available in the Levant. Grains such as wheat and barley were staples used to make bread and porridge. Olives and olive oil were also central to their cuisine, serving as both a cooking ingredient and a dietary supplement. Fruits such as figs, pomegranates, and grapes were widely consumed, along with vegetables like lentils, onions, and garlic. Meat, including lamb, goat, and fish, was a more occasional part of the diet, often reserved for special occasions or religious rituals. The coastal location of many Philistine cities provided access to an abundance of seafood, which supplemented their protein intake. Archaeological evidence, such as animal bones and fish, remains found in Philistine sites, confirms the importance of these dietary staples. Pottery discovered in Philistine settlements also suggests a sophisticated approach to cooking and food storage. Large storage jars, cooking pots, and serving dishes indicate that meals were prepared and consumed with care. The Philistines likely enjoyed communal meals, with food playing a central role in social and religious gatherings. Philistine clothing reflected their Aegean origins and local Levantine influences. Men and women wore garments made from linen or wool, with wealthier individuals donning more elaborate and colorful clothing. Decorative elements, such as embroidery and jewelry, were common among the elite. Men are often depicted in artwork wearing kilts or tunics, while women wore long dresses with fitted bodices and flared skirts. Jewelry, including earrings, necklaces, and bracelets, was popular among both men and women, serving as a marker of status and personal adornment. Materials such as gold, silver, and semi-precious stones were used to craft intricate designs. Hairstyles were another important aspect of appearance, with depictions of Philistines showing braided hair or headpieces, reflecting their cultural and social identity. Leisure activities and entertainment were integral to Philistine life. Artistic depictions and archaeological finds suggest that music and dance played significant roles in their culture, both as forms of religious expression and social enjoyment. Instruments such as lyres, drums, and cymbals were likely used during festivals and communal gatherings. Games and sports may have also been part of Philistine recreation, with activities such as board games and wrestling providing entertainment. Artistic evidence, including decorative motifs on pottery, hints at the Philistines' appreciation for storytelling, mythology, and performance. Religious practices were deeply embedded in the daily lives of the Philistines. Temples and altars within their cities served as focal points for communal worship, and household shrines indicate that families also engaged in private rituals. Offerings of food, drink, and incense were common, reflecting their belief in divine favor and protection. Religious festivals likely brought communities together, combining worship with feasting and celebration. These events not only reinforced social bonds, but also provided an opportunity for the display of wealth and status. The Philistines' daily lives were shaped by their interactions with neighboring cultures, including the Israelites, Canaanites, and Egyptians. Trade and cultural exchange introduced new goods, ideas, and technologies, which the Philistines incorporated into their society. These influences are evident in their pottery, tools, and religious practices, illustrating their adaptability and openness to external innovations. Despite periods of conflict, the Philistines' interactions with their neighbors enriched their culture and strengthened their position in the Levant. Their daily life reflects a civilization that was both resilient and dynamic, thriving in a complex and competitive environment. The influence of Egypt and other cultural connections. The Philistines' cultural and political development was significantly shaped by their interactions with neighboring civilizations, particularly Egypt, Canaan, and other Mediterranean cultures. Through trade, warfare, and diplomacy, the Philistines absorbed and adapted external influences, creating a unique fusion of traditions that defined their society. This chapter explores how these interactions enriched their culture and contributed to their resilience and adaptability. The Philistines' relationship with Egypt was both complex and multifaceted. As one of the most dominant powers in the region, Egypt exerted a significant cultural and political influence on its neighbors, including the Philistines. Texts from the reign of Pharaoh Ramses III provide some of the earliest mentions of the Philistines as part of the Sea Peoples who clashed with Egyptian forces during the 12th century before Christ. Although the Egyptians repelled these invasions, they eventually allowed some groups, including the Philistines, to settle in the southern Levant. This initial interaction laid the foundation for a long history of contact. Archaeological evidence, such as Egyptian scarabs and pottery, found in Philistine cities like Ashdod and Ashkelon, suggests robust trade and cultural exchange. Egyptian luxury goods, including jewelry and alabaster vessels, were imported into Philistine settlements, while local products like olive oil and wine likely flowed in the opposite direction. The influence of Egyptian art and iconography is also evident in Philistine material culture. Motifs such as the use of lotus flowers, solar discs, and depictions of deities appear in artifacts uncovered in Philistine cities. These elements, integrated into their own artistic traditions, highlight the Philistines' ability to blend external influences with their unique style. Interactions with Canaan. The Philistines' settlement in the southern Levant brought them into close contact with the Canaanite population. This interaction led to the exchange of goods, ideas, and cultural practices, which are reflected in the archaeological record. Canaanite influence is particularly evident in Philistine religious practices, where the worship of deities such as Baal and Astarte became integrated into their pantheon. Temples and cultic objects from Philistine sites often exhibit architectural and symbolic elements borrowed from Canaanite traditions. In return, the Philistines' technological advancements, such as their mastery of ironworking, likely influenced the Canaanites. This exchange created a dynamic cultural environment in which both groups adapted and evolved in response to one another. The Philistines' Aegean origins continued to influence their culture long after their migration to the Levant. Pottery styles, such as the Philistine bichrome ware, demonstrate clear connections to Mycenaean and Cypriot ceramic traditions. These designs were not only functional, but also symbols of identity, reflecting the Philistines' desire to maintain ties to their ancestral heritage while adapting to their new home. Maritime trade played a crucial role in sustaining these connections. The Philistines' coastal cities, particularly Ashkelon and Gaza, served as key ports for goods moving between the Mediterranean and the Levant. Items such as Cypriot pottery, Mycenaean-style jewelry, and imported raw materials including copper and tin underscore the Philistines' participation in extensive trade networks. These connections also brought technological and ideological innovations to the Philistines. The introduction of new tools, weaponry, and artistic techniques from Mediterranean partners enriched their material culture and enhanced their ability to compete with regional powers. Influence of neighboring peoples. Beyond Egypt and Canaan, the Philistines interacted with other neighboring peoples, including the Israelites and the Phoenicians. These relationships were often marked by both conflict and collaboration. For example, while the Philistines clashed with the Israelites over territory and resources, they also engaged in trade and cultural exchange, as evidenced by the presence of Philistine pottery in Israelite settlements. The Phoenicians, renowned for their maritime prowess and trade networks, likely had a significant impact on the Philistines. Shared coastal access and similar economic interests created opportunities for interaction. The influence of Phoenician craftsmanship and seafaring techniques can be seen in the Philistines' own trade practices and artistic expressions. The Philistines' ability to adapt and integrate external influences was a defining characteristic of their civilization. Rather than rejecting foreign ideas, they embraced them, weaving them into their own cultural fabric. This adaptability not only enriched their society, but also contributed to their longevity as a regional power. For example, their adoption of Canaanite religious elements, Egyptian artistic motifs, and Mediterranean trade practices demonstrates a pragmatic approach to cultural interaction. These influences helped the Philistines navigate the complex political and economic landscape of the ancient Near East, allowing them to maintain relevance and resilience despite external pressures. The Philistines' cultural interactions left an indelible mark on the history of the Levant. Their unique blend of Aegean, Canaanite, Egyptian, and Mediterranean elements created a vibrant and dynamic society that stood out among its contemporaries. This fusion not only defined their identity, but also influenced the cultures with which they interacted. As a testament to their adaptability and openness, the Philistines exemplify the power of cultural exchange in shaping civilizations. Their legacy, preserved in the artifacts and traditions they left behind, continues to offer insights into the interconnectedness of the ancient world. The Philistines in biblical narratives. The Philistines are among the most prominently featured groups in the Bible, often depicted as Israel's greatest adversaries. Their presence in the biblical narrative serves not only to illustrate the tension between the two peoples, but also to highlight themes of faith, divine intervention, and cultural conflict. By examining these stories, we can better understand how the Philistines were viewed by their contemporaries and the lasting impression they left on biblical history. The Philistines are first mentioned in Genesis chapter 10, verse 14, as descendants of Casluhim, a son of Mizraim. This reference situates them as part of the broader genealogy of nations descended from Noah. Another early reference in Genesis chapter 26 describes interactions between Isaac and Abimelech, the king of Gerar. Although this account predates the major conflicts of the Iron Age, it suggests that the Philistines were already recognized as a distinct people with established political structures. The Philistines played a significant role during the period of the Judges, a time characterized by frequent conflict between Israel and its neighbors. One of the most famous stories involving the Philistines is that of Samson, recounted in Judges chapters 13 through 16. Samson's battles with the Philistines, including his destruction of the Temple of Dagon, symbolize the struggle between Israelite faith and Philistine power. His story also reflects the cultural and religious tensions between the two peoples, as well as the consequences of individual actions in the larger narrative of divine justice. Another key event during this period is the Battle of Aphek, described in 1 Samuel chapter 4. The Philistines' victory in this battle and their capture of the Ark of the Covenant marked a moment of deep crisis for Israel. The Ark was taken to the Temple of Dagon in Ashdod, where it was displayed as a trophy of Philistine superiority. However, the subsequent plagues that afflicted the Philistine cities, detailed in 1 Samuel chapter 5, compelled them to return the ark, underscoring the power of Israel's God, the united monarchy, Saul, David, and the Philistines. The Philistines remained a dominant force during the reign of King Saul, whose rule was marked by continuous warfare with them. One of the most iconic episodes in this conflict is the story of David and Goliath, found in 1 Samuel chapter 17. This encounter not only represents the physical clash between the two peoples, but also serves as a metaphor for the spiritual battle between the God of Israel and the Philistine gods. David's victory over Goliath cemented his reputation as a leader chosen by God, setting the stage for his eventual rise to kingship. David's relationship with the Philistines was complex. Before becoming king, he sought refuge among them, aligning himself with Achish, the king of Gath, as described in 1 Samuel chapters 27 through 29. During this time, David lived as a vassal, even participating in Philistine military campaigns. However, this alliance was short-lived, and David ultimately led Israel to decisive victories over the Philistines, solidifying his control over key territories and diminishing their influence. Following David's reign, the Philistines continued to interact with Israel, although their power declined significantly. During the period of the divided monarchy, they occasionally aligned with other regional powers to challenge Israel and Judah. For instance, 2 Chronicles chapter 28 describes Philistine raids during the reign of King Ahaz of Judah, taking advantage of internal strife to assert their presence. Despite their diminished role, the Philistines remained a part of the biblical narrative, often symbolizing opposition to Israelite faith and identity. Prophetic writings, such as those of Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel, include oracles against the Philistines, condemning their actions and predicting their ultimate downfall. These passages reflect the enduring animosity between the two peoples and the theological framing of Israel's struggles with its neighbors. In addition to their historical role, the Philistines hold symbolic significance in the biblical narrative. They often represent external threats to Israel's covenant relationship with God. Stories of conflict with the Philistines emphasize the consequences of disobedience to God's commands, as seen in the loss of the ark at Aphek. Conversely, victories over the Philistines, such as David's triumph over Goliath, underscore the power of faith and divine intervention. The Philistines are also portrayed as a foil to Israel, embodying cultural and religious practices that stood in contrast to the covenantal ideals of the Israelites. Their worship of gods like Dagon and their reliance on military strength highlight the differences between the two societies, reinforcing the biblical themes of faith, humility, and reliance on God. While the Bible often portrays the Philistines through a theological lens, these accounts provide valuable historical insights. The stories of conflict reflect real geopolitical struggles in the ancient Levant, including the competition for territory, trade routes, and resources. The depiction of Philistine culture, including their ironworking technology, religious practices, and urban organization, aligns with archaeological evidence, offering a glimpse into their society. The biblical narrative also highlights the complex relationship between the Philistines and Israelites, marked by both enmity and interaction. Trade, cultural exchange, and even temporary alliances suggest that the two peoples were deeply interconnected, despite their differences. The Philistines occupy a central place in the biblical narrative, serving as both historical actors and symbolic figures. Their portrayal reflects the broader themes of the Bible, including the tension between faith and idolatry, the consequences of disobedience, and the triumph of divine power. By examining these stories, we gain a deeper appreciation for the cultural and historical significance of the Philistines, as well as their enduring impact on the religious and historical traditions of the ancient Near East. The decline and disappearance of the Philistines, The Philistines, once a dominant force in the Levant, faced a gradual decline that culminated in their disappearance as a distinct civilization. This decline was influenced by a combination of internal challenges and external pressures, including the rise of powerful empires such as Assyria and Babylon. By examining the key events and factors that contributed to the fall of the Philistines, we can better understand the dynamics of their society and their ultimate fate. The decline of the Philistines began with the loss of autonomy among their city-states. As larger empires expanded their influence in the region, the Philistine pentapolis, which once thrived on trade and political alliances, became increasingly vulnerable. By the 9th century before Christ, the Assyrian Empire had begun asserting control over the Levant, demanding tributes from local powers, including the Philistines. Assyrian inscriptions, such as those of Tiglath-Pileser III and Sargon II, document their campaigns against Philistine cities. These records reveal how cities like Ashdod, Ashkelon, and Ekron were subjected to heavy tributes and military occupation. The Assyrian dominance disrupted the Philistines' economy and political independence, forcing them to adapt to a new reality as vassal states. In addition to external pressures, internal struggles and fragmentation weakened the Philistine city-states. The decentralized nature of the Pentapolis, with each city maintaining a degree of autonomy, made it difficult for the Philistines to present a united front against external threats. Rivalries between cities, as well as shifting alliances with other regional powers, further eroded their cohesion. This lack of unity became particularly evident during periods of crisis, such as the Assyrian invasions. While some cities attempted to resist Assyrian control, others sought to collaborate, hoping to secure favorable terms. This divided response weakened the Philistines' overall ability to resist external domination. The final blow to the Philistine civilization came with the rise of the Babylonian Empire under Nebuchadnezzar II. In the early 6th century before Christ, the Babylonians launched a series of campaigns to consolidate their control over the Levant. During this period, Philistine cities such as Ashkelon and Gaza were besieged and destroyed. Archaeological evidence from Ashkelon reveals layers of destruction corresponding to the Babylonian conquest, marking the end of the city's prominence. The Babylonian campaigns effectively dismantled the political and economic structures of the Philistine city-states. The survivors were likely assimilated into the broader Babylonian Empire or displaced to other regions. This marked the end of the Philistines as a distinct cultural and political entity. After the Babylonian conquest, the Philistines gradually disappeared from historical records. Their remaining population was likely absorbed into neighboring cultures, including the Canaanites, Israelites, and other groups in the Levant. Over time, the Philistine identity was subsumed into the broader cultural landscape of the region. Despite their disappearance as a distinct people, the legacy of the Philistines endured through the artifacts, traditions, and historical accounts they left behind. Their influence on the material culture of the Levant, including advancements in pottery, metallurgy, and urban organization, continued to shape the region even after their decline. The Bible reflects on the decline of the Philistines as part of a broader narrative of divine judgment against Israel's enemies. Prophetic writings such as those of Amos, Isaiah, and Zephaniah include oracles foretelling the destruction of the Philistine cities. These passages emphasize the moral and spiritual dimensions of their downfall, framing it as a consequence of their opposition to God and Israel. For example, in Zephaniah chapter 2, verses 4 through 7, the prophet predicts the desolation of Philistine cities such as Gaza, Ashkelon, and Ekron. These oracles not only highlight the historical realities of the Philistines' decline, but also serve as a theological commentary on their role in Israel's history. Archaeological excavations provide critical insights into the decline of the Philistines, The destruction layers found in cities like Ashdod, Ashkelon, and Ekron correspond to the periods of Assyrian and Babylonian conquests, offering tangible evidence of the external pressures they faced. These findings also reveal changes in material culture, including the disappearance of distinctively Philistine pottery styles, suggesting cultural assimilation. The transition from independent city-states to vassalage under empires like Assyria and Babylon is reflected in the architectural and economic remains of Philistine cities. Fortifications were often rebuilt to accommodate the needs of occupying forces, while local industries adapted to serve imperial demands. These changes underscore the challenges faced by the Philistines as they struggled to maintain their identity in the face of external domination. The end of an era. The disappearance of the Philistines marked the end of an era in the ancient Near East. Once a formidable power in the Levant, they succumbed to the forces of imperial expansion and cultural assimilation. Their fall serves as a reminder of the fragility of civilizations and the complex interplay of internal and external factors that shape their trajectories. While the Philistines as a distinct people faded from history, their legacy endures through the stories, artifacts, and cultural contributions they left behind. Their rise and fall remain a compelling chapter in the history of the ancient Near East, offering valuable lessons about resilience, adaptation, and the forces that drive the rise and decline of civilizations. The rediscovery of the Philistines, archaeology, and modern perspectives. The Philistines remained an enigmatic and often misunderstood civilization for centuries after their disappearance from historical records. Their image, shaped primarily by biblical narratives, depicted them as antagonists of Israel and symbols of moral and spiritual opposition. However, the advent of modern archaeology in the 19th and 20th centuries has allowed scholars to uncover a more nuanced and detailed understanding of who the Philistines were, reshaping their legacy in the historical record. The rediscovery of the Philistines began in the late 19th century, when archaeologists, inspired by biblical accounts, started excavating sites in the Levant. Early expeditions focused on identifying the cities of the Pentapolis: Gaza, Ashkelon, Ashdod, Ekron, and Gath. These efforts yielded significant finds, including pottery, architectural remains, and inscriptions, which provided the first tangible evidence of Philistine culture. Initially, interpretations of these discoveries were heavily influenced by the biblical portrayal of the Philistines as adversaries of Israel. Early scholars often emphasized their militarism and cultural differences, reinforcing the perception of the Philistines as outsiders and invaders in the region. This perspective, while valuable in highlighting certain aspects of Philistine history, overlooked the complexity and sophistication of their society. Several key excavations have played a pivotal role in reshaping our understanding of the Philistines. 1. Ashkelon. Excavations in Ashkelon, one of the major cities of the Philistine Pentapolis, have uncovered extensive remains, including fortifications, marketplaces, and industrial facilities. The discovery of a Philistine cemetery in 2016 provided crucial insights into their burial practices, genetics, and cultural identity. 2. Ekron, at Tel Mikne, identified as the ancient city of Ekron, archaeologists discovered an inscription that confirmed the site's identification and highlighted its importance as a center of olive oil production. This find shed light on the Philistines' economic activities and their integration into regional trade networks. 3. Gath. Excavations at Tel Safi, the site of Gath, have revealed a wealth of information about Philistine urban planning, architecture, and interactions with neighboring cultures. Artifacts, including pottery and tools, illustrate the blending of Aegean and Canaanite traditions. 4. Ashdod. The site of Ashdod has yielded evidence of Philistine religious practices, including remains of temples and cultic objects. These discoveries have provided valuable insights into their spiritual beliefs and connections to both Aegean and Levantine traditions. The application of advanced technologies such as radiocarbon dating, DNA analysis, and geophysical surveys has revolutionized the study of the Philistines. For example, genetic studies on remains from Ashkelon have confirmed their Aegean origins, supporting the theory that the Philistines were part of the broader Sea Peoples migration. These findings also reveal how the Philistines adapted to the Levantine environment over generations, blending their ancestral traditions with local customs. Studies of pottery and artifacts using chemical analysis have provided insights into Philistine trade networks and resource use. These analyses show that the Philistines were active participants in regional and Mediterranean-wide commerce, challenging earlier notions that they were isolated or solely militaristic. Modern archaeology has also challenged the simplistic portrayal of the Philistines as uncivilized or inherently antagonistic. Instead, the evidence reveals a complex society with advanced urban planning, economic sophistication, and a rich cultural heritage. While the Philistines did engage in conflicts with the Israelites, they were also skilled traders, artisans, and farmers who contributed to the development of the Levant. This nuanced perspective has led scholars to re-examine the biblical accounts of the Philistines. While the Bible remains a valuable historical source, its theological focus and Israelite-centric perspective mean that it cannot be the sole lens through which to view Philistine history. Archaeological findings have helped to balance this narrative, presenting the Philistines as a dynamic and adaptable civilization, public interest, and cultural significance. The rediscovery of the Philistines has captured the public imagination, inspiring books, documentaries, and exhibitions. Their story resonates with broader themes of migration, cultural exchange, and resilience, making them a compelling subject for both scholars and the general public. The Philistines have also become a symbol of the interconnectedness of ancient civilizations. Their Aegean origins and integration into the Levant illustrate the ways in which cultures influence and shape one another, challenging modern notions of cultural boundaries and identity. The study of the Philistines continues to evolve as new discoveries are made and methodologies improve. They serve as a reminder of the importance of archaeology in uncovering lost histories and challenging established narratives. The Philistines' story is not just about their conflicts with Israel, but also about their contributions to the cultural and economic fabric of the ancient Near East. Their rediscovery has transformed them from biblical villains into a subject of fascination and respect, highlighting the complexity of their civilization and their lasting impact on the region. Through ongoing research, the Philistines are no longer an enigma, but a vibrant part of the human story. The legacy of the Philistines in the modern world. The legacy of the Philistines continues to influence history, culture, and even contemporary language. Although they disappeared as a distinct entity thousands of years ago, their impact is evident not only in historical and archaeological records, but also in the symbolism they represent today. This chapter examines how the Philistines are remembered, reinterpreted, and utilized in modern discourse, highlighting their enduring relevance. The term Philistine in modern culture. One of the most curious aspects of the Philistine legacy is the modern use of the term Philistine. Derived from biblical narratives and their role as adversaries of Israel, the word has come to symbolize someone uncultured or indifferent to the arts and culture. This interpretation emerged particularly in the 17th century, when the term was used in European literature to describe those who dismissed cultural sophistication. Despite this negative connotation, archaeological and historical advances have challenged this simplistic view. The Philistines are now recognized as a culturally advanced people with significant achievements in architecture, craftsmanship, and trade. The pejorative use of the term serves as a reminder of how historical interpretations can be shaped by cultural biases. The Philistines have been a source of inspiration in literary, artistic, and cinematic works. Narratives, such as the story of David and Goliath, continue to be reimagined in novels, plays, and films, exploring themes like faith, courage, and the struggle between the small and the great. These stories have transcended their original context, becoming universal metaphors for overcoming challenges. Artists and writers have also drawn on the Philistines to explore issues of cultural identity, migration, and resistance. Contemporary works often use the Philistines as a symbol of adaptation and survival amid dramatic changes, highlighting their ability to integrate traditions while maintaining unique elements of their heritage. Archaeology has played a crucial role in reconstructing the legacy of the Philistines. Discoveries in cities such as Ashdod, Ashkelon, and Ekron have provided new perspectives on their lifestyle, skills, and cultural interactions. For example, the recognition of their Aegean origins and their subsequent integration into Canaanite and Levantine cultures underscore their importance as a link between the Mediterranean and the Near East. These discoveries also have implications for cultural tourism and heritage preservation. Archaeological sites associated with the Philistines attract visitors interested in biblical and ancient history, promoting a broader understanding of their civilization. Museums in Israel and around the world display Philistine artifacts, educating the public about their achievements and historical challenges. From a theological perspective, the Philistines remain an important part of biblical narratives, symbolizing the conflict between faith in God and external forces. Their stories continue to be used in sermons and biblical studies to illustrate themes of obedience, divine judgment, and redemption. At the same time, archaeological research has enriched these discussions, providing historical context to biblical accounts. Historically, the Philistines exemplify the challenges faced by civilizations in contexts of migration and cultural change. Their ability to adapt and thrive in a new environment while retaining aspects of their original identity serves as an example of cultural resilience. This legacy resonates with modern issues of displacement and cultural integration, making them a relevant historical reference. The story of the Philistines offers several lessons applicable to the modern world. First, it highlights the importance of cultural exchange in shaping civilizations. The Philistines were able to combine their Aegean roots with Levantine influences to create a distinct and prosperous society. This model of adaptation and integration remains relevant in an increasingly globalized world. Additionally, the study of the Philistines demonstrates how historical interpretations can be shaped by dominant narratives. Long viewed solely as enemies in the biblical narrative, the Philistines are now recognized as a complex and influential civilization. This example underscores the importance of re-examining the past based on new evidence and perspectives. Finally, the legacy of the Philistines reminds us of the fragility of civilizations in the face of political, social, and environmental changes. Their rise and fall reflect the challenges faced by all societies in dealing with internal and external forces that threaten their survival. Although the Philistines disappeared as a distinct people thousands of years ago, their impact continues to be felt in various fields. From their contributions to the material culture of the Levant to their presence in biblical narratives and modern imagination, the Philistines left an indelible mark on history. Their legacy challenges simplistic interpretations and invites us to explore the complexity of ancient civilizations. Through ongoing research and public engagement, the Philistines remain a source of fascination and learning, connecting the past to the present in profound and meaningful ways.